I'm going to call the meeting to order, meeting number 2025-0123R.
Tonight's music selection made by City Manager Sheila Rose was Bayando by Enrique Iglesias. The next commission meeting on February 13th, the music selection will be made by our Mayor, Sandra Welch. We'd like to remind everyone to please silence your mobile devices. To help with sound quality, please make sure to speak clearly and directly into your microphone and mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If anyone is having trouble hearing at any point during the meeting, please raise your hand and someone will bring you an audio assistance device. Thank you.
City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell.
Here.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Here.
Commissioner Brody.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Good evening.
Mayor Welch.
Here.
City Manager Rose.
Here.
City Attorney Piper.
Here.
I'd like to ask a Girl Scout Troop 12022 to come up and lead us in the pledge.
This meeting is being conducted live with a physical quorum present. The material for today's meeting is available online at www.coconutcreek.net. Anyone wishing to appeal any decision made will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim recording of the proceedings is made, including the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. The archive of this meeting may be requested from the city clerk or may be heard online on the city's website. If you haven't already, please silence your mobile devices. If you must take a phone call, please excuse yourself and step outside. Respect and proper decorum will be maintained throughout the meeting. Vocal outbursts, jeering, cheering, or applause can impair the rights of others and derail the decision-making process. Members of the Commission, city staff, and the public in attendance shall not make any political campaign statements, solicit for politically funded events, or discuss campaign-related issues for candidates at any public meetings.
Thank you. Agenda item 1 is presentation of the Life-Saving Commendation Award for Police Officer John Paul Frazier Mahoney Harley. And we have our Chief of Police, Fred Hofer, is going to make the presentation.
It's on the desktop. And officers.
Yep.
You took them out.
I did. Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor, City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk. Yes, tonight we have 2 awards, and speaking with them, they get a little nervous, they're humble, so they asked if we did them together so they didn't have to stand up here alone. So yes, we have Officer John Paul Harley and Officers Hanny Gill. If both of you guys can come on up. So wait till you hear these stories. First, for Officer John Paul Harley. It's a great pleasure to present you with a life-saving award for the actions you took on December 5th, 2024. On this date, while working at detail, an off-duty detail at North Broward Preparatory School, you were alerted to a situation in the cafeteria. Upon arrival, an adult female came running up to you, turning blue, and grabbing her neck, indicating she was choking. Without hesitation, you promptly administered the Heimlich maneuver. Your immediate and decisive actions dislodged the obstruction and allowed the victim to breathe again and return her to normal color. If not for your expedient, life-saving actions, this female subject may not have survived, probably would not have survived. For this, it is with great pride that I present you with the Department's Life-Saving Commendation Award. On behalf of the Coconut Creek Police Department, I would like to extend to you our thanks for an outstanding job. And Officer Hanny Gill. A day later, this happened. So it's with great pleasure to present you with the Life-Saving Award for the actions you took on December 6, 2024. On this date, while working a detail at Calvary Chapel, you observed a female in distress exhibiting clear signs of choking on a piece of steak lodged in her throat. Despite her attempts to cough up or remove the obstruction, the food remained stuck in her throat. The female began to turn blue and continued grabbing her neck area. Without hesitation, you promptly administered the Heimlich maneuver. Your immediate and decisive actions also dislodged the obstruction and allowed the victim to breathe again and return her to normal color. If not for your expedient life-saving actions, this female subject may not and probably would not have survived. For this, it is with great pride that I present you with the department's Life-Saving Commendation Award. On behalf of the Coconut Creek Police Department, I would like to extend to you our thanks for an outstanding job well done. So, Commissioners, would you like to take a picture with the officers? Commissioners? Here you go. Okay. And then any family and friends that would like to come up and take a picture with them, come on up. Stay up there. One more picture. Dante, you can go. Sarge, you can go. It's not appropriate.
Congratulations again. Agenda item 3 is a proclamation recognizing Coral Springs City Manager Frank Babinek, now retired, for his years of service to the community. And our City Manager, Rose, is going to read the proclamation into the record and present it to Mr. Babinek along with the City Challenge coin. Was I supposed to read all that? I think we should have an element of surprise. So I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Rose.
Thank you, Mayor. It is my great pleasure to honor Frank Babinek this evening after his retirement from the City of Coral Springs. Whereas Frank Babinek has been a dedicated public servant for more than 30 years, starting his career with the City of Coral Springs Fire Department as a volunteer firefighter in 1993, and then being hired full-time as a training officer in 2000. And whereas before being appointed as city manager to the City of Coral Springs in 2019, he served in many key roles in the fire department, including Assistant Fire Chief, Deputy Fire of Operations, Lead Instructor at the Coral Springs Regional Institute of Public Safety, and Chief of the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department. And whereas during his tenure with the City of Coral Springs, Mr. Babinek has served as a vital partner with the City of Coconut Creek on many issues, including public safety mutual aid, the COVID-19 response, advocacy efforts, and helping the Coconut Creek transition to the Coral Springs Fire EMS dispatch system, enabling the city to stand up its own fire department and aiding in the improvement of fire and EMS response times in the city. And whereas, in his capacity as city manager, Mr. Babinek also has been a leader in Broward County, serving as vice president and then president of the Broward County City Managers Association, bringing the county and its 31 cities together for collaboration on regional issues, including solid waste management, the county's transportation surtax, and the Emergency Operations Center roles and responsibility. And whereas Mr. Babinek's commitment to public safety and intergovernmental coordination in our communities has greatly contributed to improved emergency services, safety, and quality of life for our residents and businesses and visitors of Coconut Creek, which contributions have been essential to the city's mission to provide exceptional, responsive, and sustainable services to the city of Coconut Creek community. And whereas Mr. Babinek will be retiring in January of 2025, I think he already has, and the city wishes to thank him for his tireless public service and dedication to the residents of Broward County, including Coconut Creek. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek hereby recognizes Frank Babinek for his exceptional commitment to fostering meaningful intergovernmental partnerships and public safety in Broward County, and expresses our deepest gratitude for his contributions and positive impact on the community.
I was just going to make a couple of remarks. Do you want to go first? Yeah, please, Sheila.
Commissioner Rydell.
So Frank, I feel just a little compelled, Mayor, with your approval, of course, not only for you, but probably for our next item as well. I don't think what was not spoken in that proclamation is everything you did in regarding the massacre at Stoneman Douglas, everything you did for your agency in terms of mental health support, peer support services that we're mimicking in this city. I remember sitting with you as a fire chief in the Coral Springs Commission chambers, listening to you discuss the after effects of that. There's things that we model after, as our department is modeling after your department and what you set up. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge some of that. I don't say this often. I admire you. I admire your leadership style. I admire how people love you. I think you are, our neighboring city was beyond blessed to have you, and I can't imagine how things have developed with you, with everything that you've seen and everything you've done. So I just personally, and I've lived it over the past 10 years, and I have similar thoughts about Cindy as well, but I admire you. Thank you for your service. This is such a small token of some of the things we've taken from you, your leadership, your ideas. Obviously, you have a whole team, but we have done a lot of great things in this city because of your leadership. So thank you.
And not only that, but I think we didn't have him on the payroll, former city manager Babinek, but I know you were directly phone dial connected with us every step of the way. And to the Commissioner Rydell's point, that BHAP program couldn't have come soon enough once we had our own fire department and knew the difference it could make, not just for them, but for all of our employees. So sorry we didn't pay you, but we can certainly pay you with a lot of words of gratitude. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is a proclamation recognizing. Yes, of course. Hi. Go ahead, please come to the podium.
She has a box. You're getting something else, Frank.
Good evening. Yes. Well, there's two special people tonight that the congressman wanted to recognize. Frank actually I've known him for many years. I was able to recognize him at the City Hall there, but there was something special that just came in the mail, and since you guys were doing the honor, I hoped you didn't mind if I would come and do that here. Frank, you want to come up? Well, first of all, I know I've said thank you a million times to you. I mean, I've known him for many years, decades of time, showing both of our age. But the congressman feels as though he admires you. He appreciates you so much for all you've done, whether it's with the fire department, with the city. It has been tremendous, and we can't thank you enough. And in your honor, he has flown a flag over the United States Capitol for you. And there's a certificate here along with the flag for you, and he can't thank you enough for everything. So, thank you. I'm sorry you can't be here with me about it. Thank you. He was able to give him a little bit of a recognition at the commission meeting over a video, but he's in D.C. again. So thank you so much for the few moments, commissioners. Thank you, and Mayor.
Absolutely. So our next agenda item is a proclamation recognizing Coral Springs Coconut Creek Chamber of Commerce President Cindy Brief for service to the city and its business community. And I'm going to read the proclamation into the record and then present it to you along with, well, I'll leave that for another surprise. And then I think Congressman Moskowitz is going to have another presentation, so we'll go in that order. Thank you very much. All right, so Cindy. Whereas Cindy Brief has been a longtime resident of Coconut Creek and has served as the president and chief executive officer of the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce since 2006, bringing exceptional leadership and dedication to fostering and thriving business community. And whereas Cindy earned a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Brooklyn College and achieved her CBA designation in New York, demonstrating her commitment to excellence and professional development. And whereas Cindy's entrepreneurial spirit has guided her career, including owning several successful businesses in the event industry prior to her current role, where she has passionately worked to empower businesses and help them achieve success. And whereas during her tenure, she earned prestigious professional designations in the chamber industry, including the Institute of Organizational Management and the Florida Association of Chamber of Commerce Professionals, reflecting her expertise and unwavering commitment to organizational growth and service. And whereas Cindy has been instrumental in establishing numerous impactful programs, including the Professional Women's Alliance, Biz Academy, Government Relations Committee, the Platinum Circle, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit, and the Chamber's Education Foundation, as well as many other signature events that have strengthened the community and supported local businesses. And whereas in 2018, Cindy successfully facilitated the merger of the Coral Springs Regional Chamber and the Coconut Creek Chamber of Commerce, creating the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce. This merger has proven mutually beneficial, fostering collaboration and unity between the cities of Coconut Creek and Coral Springs, and enhancing opportunities for businesses and residents in both communities. And whereas Cindy's visionary leadership, innovative programs, and community-first mindset have left a lasting legacy, strengthening bonds between businesses, cities, and residents, and fostering a culture of collaboration and inclusivity. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek hereby recognizes Cindy Brief for her outstanding service, leadership, and unwavering commitment to the betterment of the Coral Springs and Coconut Creek communities. We honor her many accomplishments and wish her continued success in her future endeavors. And it was signed by the mayor and the commission and attested by our city clerk. So, congratulations.
Miss America. Well, again, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak on behalf of Congressman Moskowitz. Cindy, again, it's been a long time, and working for a few members of Congress, you've been wonderful with us, always supporting the members of Congress. Congressman Moskowitz also, appreciates you so much and has had an opportunity to get to know you a little bit and be with your chamber and speak to them, which has been wonderful. He did send along a message and also a flag flown over the Capitol for you. If you just give me just a moment to read the letter, it says, "Dear Cindy, congratulations on your retirement. After 18 years of dedicated leadership and service as the president and CEO of the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce, you leave behind a legacy for future chamber leaders in the community. Your tireless efforts have had a profound impact on local businesses, fostering growth and collaboration across the region. Through your vision and dedication, the chamber has become a cornerstone of the community, offering support, resources, and opportunities for businesses and residents alike. Cindy, your work has strengthened connections not only with Coral Springs and Coconut Creek, but also far beyond, building partnerships and creating opportunities that have enriched others. I'm thankful to know that I will still get to see you in the community as you continue to mentor and guide the new leadership to a successful future ahead. Best regards, Jared Moskowitz, Member of Congress." Thank you.
Commissioner Rydell.
Thank you, Mayor. So Cindy, also, I kind of have similar remarks. I think, when I got elected and when I was running for office, the city of Coconut Creek was like a lost puppy with chambers and businesses. I hate to say it like that, but it wasn't, there wasn't development, there wasn't ideas, there wasn't creativity, there wasn't relationships. You made this happen, and the city of Coconut Creek is better for it. You've been not only an amazing resident, active, amazing resident, but what you've done with the ability, whether it's our Small Business Academy, everything that we've done in partnership with you, it proves day in and day out that it was the right decision. And I know you and Sheila had this brainstorm years ago, so I give you a lot of credit, but the city took a really big change in 2018. And I think, just to my colleagues who weren't there for it, it was a hard decision because one chamber was ultimately disbanded for this. So thank you. Thank you, because I think you genuinely affected Coconut Creek businesses to the better. Thank you.
It's true. And I just happened to be in City, oh, I'm sorry. I just happened to be in City Hall the day there, and you were having I think the final negotiations, and I saw all of you waiting in the lobby. And I really said a silent prayer, because I knew after the floundering chamber that we had here prior on our own behalf, that we really needed the robust efforts of the combined cities to really make it work on behalf of not just our communities, but our residents and our businesses to come and existing. So you really made it happen, and we really appreciate it. So guess my prayers were answered. Vice Mayor Raley.
Thank you. Cindy, we are so proud to have you as a resident. And the difference you made in our small business community is astounding, and your legacy will live on. And I'm sure your successor will follow in your footsteps, because you laid the foundation, and we have a strong foundation to build from there. And thank you. Thank you for all your tireless efforts.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yeah, no, I think you're moving on to a great phase to be with your grandkids and to enjoy that time. And I know whenever you would speak about them with me, you light up the room when you talk about them. So I know you're going to enjoy this time. And we thank you for everything you've done. And best of luck. And continue to come be with us and represent the Butterfly Capital all the time.
We are going to adjourn for a brief 5-minute recess. My apologies. I overlooked agenda item 5, so forgive me for that. Meeting is back in session. Yes. Agenda item 5 is a presentation recognizing Parks and Recreation employees, Allison Lalance and Isis Cunningham, for their extraordinary efforts in rescuing and saving a bird in distress. Parks and Rec Director Wayne Toby is going to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioner, City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk. As you know, I have a lot of great employees in Parks and Recreation, and I want to celebrate and recognize 2 of my employees, Allison Lalance and Isis Cunningham, for rescuing and saving an Inhinga bird. An Inhinga bird is one of those snake birds that you see a lot of times in the lakes. They were on their day off when they saved it. Both Allison Lalance and Isis Cunningham found themselves in a situation on the afternoon of Wednesday, January 16th, while fishing on a lake near City Hall. They noticed an Inhinga bird that was struggling in the water and saw that it was tangled in fishing line with a hook, along with a broken fishing rod attached to its foot. Allison managed to catch the bird, and with the help from Isis and one of the neighborhood residents, they were able to remove the fishing hook and broken fishing rod from its foot and untangle and cut the fishing line off its beak. Both Alice and Isis have caring hearts for wildlife, and thanks to them, the Inhinga bird was set free. And there's a couple photos up there that you can see where they caught the Inhinga bird and tangled the fishing debris, and the bird was able to live on. So thank you, Allison and Isis.
Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, you guys can't run away that quick. So just a little background. I met Allie when she was coming on a softball field when she was about 5 years old. And it's one of those moments when you look at a kid and you go, oh, holy crap, this kid's different. So right off the bat, I knew you were going to be special. I know, knowing your family as well as I do, I knew you were going to be a very special young lady, and I'm glad that you're getting this recognition. Now, ironically, I know Isis from when I worked at the fitness center, and I met her and I got to know her over the last 7 years? And I'm going to tell you, she's a very special young lady. I was surprised that both of you guys are involved. I looked at this picture and I went, that's awesome, man. I know both of you guys, and I'm so proud of both of you, because this encompasses what Coconut Creek is about. It's about looking out for not only just our neighbors, not only just our environment, but the animals and creatures that all live around us that help support this ecosystem called Coconut Creek. And I want to say you personally, thank you very much for doing this, because this is one of those moments where I can say, this is why I do my job. Because of you two right there, give me hope that there's better stuff that's happening in our world, and especially here in Coconut Creek. So thank you very much.
All right, now we will take a brief 5-minute recess. Calling the meeting back to order. Thank you very much. All right, our next item up is input from the public. We will now have input from the public on non-agenda or consent agenda items. I remind everyone wishing to speak that all comments must pertain to city business. Respect and proper decorum will be maintained. Behavior that disrupts the orderly conduct of this meeting, such as clapping, shouting, booing, and cheering, is not permitted. Any person who violates the decorum rules will be subject to removal from the commission chambers. Members of the commission, city staff, and the public in attendance shall not make any political campaign statements, solicit for politically funded events, or discuss campaign-related issues for candidates at any public meetings. City Clerk Kavanaugh, is there anyone who has signed in to speak tonight on non-agenda items or consent agenda items?
Yes, we have 3 individuals that signed up to speak this evening. The first speaker is Tiffany Wenig, followed by Patricia Snyder, and then Philippa Sklar. For Patricia Snyder, Philippa Sklar, if you could please come up and sit in the reserved seating area for public speaking, so we know that you'll be the next one to speak. I would appreciate it. When you come up to speak, please state your name and address clearly for the record. Thank you.
Hello, sorry. We're a lot. All right, ladies. Okay. Hello, I'm Tiffany Wenig. I am the co-leader for Troop 12222, and the girls wanted to address the commission tonight to ask for your support. Go ahead.
My Girl Scout Troop 12222 is hosting a crayon drive for our Bronze Award project. A Bronze Award project is a project that helps and educates the community. We are taking donations of broken and used crayons and giving them to the Crayon Initiative. Crayons often end up in landfills, and since crayons are made of paraffin wax, they don't break down and they become a melted puddle. We will take the donations, unwrap them, sort them, then send them to the Crayon Initiative, where new crayons are made and then donated to children's hospitals. The new crayons will have a triangular shape so they don't roll off trays. The crayons give kids easy entertainment in hospitals. We would like a donation box to be set up in City Hall and your support to encourage donations. Thank you.
City Manager Rose, I'm sorry.
Our troop was started in 2019 with girls from Coral Springs and Coconut Creek. We always sell a lot of Girl Scout cookies, so we take some of our funds and we buy food for feeding South Florida. With the other parts of our funds, we go on fun field trips like horseback riding. We have started events like Irish dance event. We have been on camping trips where we slept in cabins all together. Our goal is to one day go to Savannah, Georgia as a troop.
The Crayon Initiative was created one night when Brian Ware, founder, wondered where restaurant crayons end up when all the people go home. Turned out it's the landfill, making a big waxy mess that never biodegrades. Why couldn't they be repurposed to create more joy in the world? Consulting an occupational therapist, he even gave his new crayons a unique design, large and 3-sided, so they're easy for kids to grip and can't roll off hospital trays. Finally, he crafted a network for sending free crayons to kids in hospitals all over the country. Hold the box.
The Crayon Initiative has helped over 240 children's hospitals across the United States, donated to almost 800,000 patients, and kept a whopping more than 59 million crayons from landfills. The Crayon Initiative has made a significant impact on the world, showing that people like you and me can create happiness and help nature at the same time. Together, we can make our mark on the world for the better.
City Manager Rhodes, would you be able to direct someone from staff
Thank
to
you.
meet with these girls?
Absolutely, and I don't see Yvonne, so I would ask Liz, if you see, oh, there's Yvonne. Yvonne Lopez is the perfect person to meet with, and certainly we can commit to hosting that box and promoting recycling of crayons in City Hall, and anybody from their family to bring them in and recycle them. So reach out to Yvonne, and we'll get it going.
So February 13th is our next commission meeting. I'd like a case of Thin Mints and a case of Samoas, please.
We got you.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next speaker that's signed up to speak is Patricia Snyder, followed by Philippa Sklar.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, where is South Creek? I know you know the answer, but I am asked that question all the time. I would like to request that one of the banners at 43rd Avenue be changed to say, "Welcome to South Creek." There are two side-by-side banners on the pole now with the same message. The only difference is the color of the background. We don't need to see two of the same signs. We'd like to see, "Welcome to South Creek." There is a sturdy wooden sign stating Hosford Park, Donaldson Park, and the Rowe Center. I was going to ask for a new piece of wood going across the top of that sign saying South Creek, but that would be costly. I also considered asking for letters saying South Creek on the small brick walls on either side of 43rd Avenue entrance, but they're on private property and have plants in front of them. Every development in Coconut Creek has a sign: Winmore, the Township, Tamarind Village, etc. Our builder, Jack Brown, passed away many years ago, so I'm asking the city to recognize our section by changing one of the existing banners. During the break, I had a little talk with Yvonne because I know that she's very familiar with the banners and the cost, and that they're made in-house, so it really shouldn't be too much of an expense. And I also know that 3 of you were up for re-election in March, and I'm sure South Creek would appreciate your approval of the sign and maybe show their appreciation with your votes. Thank you for considering this recognition of our special section of Coconut Creek.
Patty, you got it.
Patty, just reach out to me Monday and we'll work on that.
I'm sorry.
Reach out to me on Monday and we'll work on that, the sign.
Okay.
And the last speaker that signed up to speak is Philippa Sklar.
All right, is there anyone else here who would like to provide input on non-agenda items or consent agenda items? If so, please come forward and state your name. All right, well, seeing none, we're going to go consent agenda, items 6 through 8. Agenda item 6 is a motion authorizing the city manager or designee to approve Kilowatt Electric Company to purchase and install new LED luminaries and concrete light poles to replace the existing fixtures and poles at the combined recreation complex and the Fire Station 94 parking lots. Item 7, Resolution 2025-009 is a resolution approving the City of Coconut Creek's 2025 state legislative agenda. Agenda item 8 is a resolution 2025-010, a resolution approving the City of Coconut Creek's 2025 federal legislative agenda. Are there any items the commission wishes to pull from consent? All right, seeing none, is there a motion and a second to?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wasserman and seconded by Commissioner Rydell. Is that right? All right. City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Bless you. Agenda item, regular agenda is agenda item 9 is resolution 2025-021, a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute an agreement with All Florida Contracting Services, LLC, to purchase and install a 100 kilowatt emergency backup generator and corresponding automatic transfer switch at Fire Station 94 pursuant to IFB number 11-13-24-11. Is there a motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Raley and seconded by Commissioner Brody. Sorry. No. We have Public Works Director. I'm going to make the report. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Fire Rescue Station 94 emergency generator is over 17 years old. This project will replace the generator located inside the current building with an exterior pad-mounted 100 kilowatt generator with an associated fuel tank directly underneath. There'll be a new equipment enclosure that surrounds the generator. The transfer switch and associated electrical panels and wiring will also be replaced to be brought up to current codes. The existing generator will be scrapped at a scrapyard where it is recycled by the scrapyard. Any construction debris that is not recycled at a scrapyard is typically processed at a C&D facility such as Monarch Hill, in which that material, that C&D Monarch Hill reports, is 90% of it gets recycled. So any other construction debris usually ends up recycled. The project completion is anticipated to be about 38 weeks from notice to proceed. And Mr. Mike Cox, the CEO and President of All Florida Contracting Services, is here tonight if you have any questions.
Any comments from the commission? Oh, Commissioner Brody.
So can you clarify, when they remove the old generator, is it recycled or is it scrapped?
Well, the metal, when it goes to a scrap yard, typically if there's any value or residual value of parts, sometimes they may part it out, things of that. Each individual yard does different things. This one doesn't have any residual value to sell, so typically in this case it's probably going to be sold for scrap metal. So the metal itself gets recycled, or any other component on it, whether there's copper windings, those will get recycled as well.
So in their contract it says that they have full ownership once it's removed to do what they want with?
Correct, because at that point it's just construction debris.
So they can actually refurb it and sell it and it'd be on their own dime, and that's
Yes.
part of the project
Yes.
and contract, and it's all spelled out.
Many contractors take they're bidding on contracts will look at any residual values of materials that come off or components, and they may or may not factor that into their bid to sharpen their pencil and become more competitive. So that's sometimes
I just want on the record to make sure that once it's removed, it's their responsibility. It's no longer the city's. They can do as they want with it.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Rydell.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Harry. Where's the vendor?
Mr. Cox is here.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Cox. I think it's always, I was just thanking you for coming.
I didn't know if you had a question or not.
I like when we give out contracts. I mean, I don't support them unless obviously the vendor's coming to open themselves up to be slightly questioned. When you look at the bids, I think it's right on point. My only question is, I see it's not to exceed for the $400,000. My question is this, because I was reviewing the contract, and maybe Madam City Attorney just wants to speak to it briefly. I was looking at something like the warranties. I guess I don't want to say warranties because you're not warrantying the actual generator. You're warrantying the work, right? The workmanship of it. I just wanted to. Can you speak to me about that, Ari?
Yes, I believe the warranties are 1-year warranty from the contractor, and then the generator, depending on which brand is eventually purchased, would come with a separate separate warranty through the manufacturer of the component.
And that's what I was questioning, because the workmanship I saw for the year, my only question is, and I don't have this answer because I normally like to ask about it with warranties, it doesn't look like the actual product generator is selected.
It is
You
not.
haven't bought that yet.
The generator has not been selected yet.
No, but it would boil down to Kohler, Cummins, or Caterpillar.
Okay, all obviously reputable companies, and Harry, I would just like to just make sure staff vets and has the proper warranty information. God forbid there's something wrong with the generator.
It's
That's
a
all.
standard 1-year warranty.
Thank you. From installation?
You can purchase a 3 or 5 year warranty at an extra cost.
Okay, so I leave that in the discretion of staff. While it's a contract for services, I'm a fan of these type of things, you know, depending on what it is, but I leave that to staff to vet. I know we traditionally maintain warranties on a lot of these things because you never know, especially on a fire station. It's not something you want to cheap out on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And our public input troop, Girl Scout troop that was here tonight, hit the recycle and reuse on the button, so this takes care of all of that full cycle, so, and then we don't have to dispose of it. So, very much appreciate it. Thank you very much again. Any other comments? All right. Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. Agenda item 10, Resolution 2025-016, resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the attached agreement with Blue Marlin Investments, Inc., doing business as CAECO, to provide landscape maintenance services for facilities, parks, and greenways pursuant to RFP number 11-06-24-11. Motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rydell and seconded by Vice Mayor Raley. And again, we have our Public Works Director.
Good evening. This agenda item is a maintenance service contract to provide landscaping maintenance services for the facilities, parks, and greenways. The services include mowing, trimming, edging, weed control, fertilization, debris pickup, pest control, hedge and tree, shrub care. The initial agreement is for 4 years with 2 additional 1-year extensions. The city staff and selection committee evaluated the proposals based on the operational plan for the city, the qualifications and experience, the resources and availability, past performance, and price. Staff recommends approval of this item, and Mr. Daniel Gonzalez, the owner and president of CAECO, is here tonight if you have any questions.
Commissioner Rydell?
He already queued himself. He stood up. Thank you for being here. A couple quick things, Harry, I just need clarity on. Obviously, I met with Sheila, and I'll say this just for context with my colleagues on this. Obviously, we had a long-time vendor. I understand that they bid. We're moving on. It's a different vendor selection. I understand Mr. Gonzalez's company was not the lowest bid, but I understand that tied into some references. I did look in the backup of the presentation. I see some of your municipal contracts. Can you speak to the commission about the reference system and the reference checking of, obviously, when you called some of the municipal, other public works directors about the feedback you got from the services CAECO's providing?
Right. The selection committee, each individual looks at their past performance and their references and makes calls. And what they indicated was CAECO company had superior performance. The lower bidder was not at that bar. So taking those 5 items into account, looking at the cost, the price, the past performance, availability, and so forth, so on, they felt that this was the best choice for the city.
So it looks like has like 6 municipal active contracts. I just wanted to make sure all those were contacted regarding references.
Yes. I don't know exactly. I did not make the calls. The selection committee did. So,
of course.
But the feedback or the report was that their references were superior performance.
And they're all well-landscaped cities. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Thank you. Do we have a termination clause? Is that built into the contract?
Yes.
For either party? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, with the 30-day notice?
There is a termination, yeah.
Typically, we have a termination clause that includes termination for convenience with 30 days, and then there's also termination for cause, and so there's termination for default. There's usually those 3 different components.
Okay, thank you.
So just one last question, well, from me. Is there staffing concerns within most of the landscaping services, or just with some?
Just with some, and every company will face from time to time, and that played a factor into our decision not to continue or extend the contract that we had, and it played into the decision when the selection committee was making their choice.
Well, it's a tough industry, so I understand that. And if they've had good continuity, then that's a very positive thing, so thank you. Anybody else? Okay. City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. Agenda item 11 is Resolution 2025-002, a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute amendment number 10 to the District 4 Landscape Inclusive Maintenance Memorandum Agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, for the purpose of maintaining sidewalks, landscaping, and other improvements within the right-of-way of Hillsborough Boulevard, State Road 810, related to the Leader Self-Storage Development Project. Is there a motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rydell and seconded by Vice Mayor Raley. So,
Mayor, items 11 and 12 are contained.
all right, then shall I go ahead and read Resolution 2025-003, a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the attached maintenance agreement with 4161 Hillsborough LLC, which agreement transfers and assigns responsibilities for the maintenance of sidewalks, landscaping, and other improvements in the West Hillsborough Boulevard, State Road 810, right-of-way adjacent to the property located at 4161 West Hillsborough Boulevard. Is there a motion and a second for
Move it.
item 12?
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Raley and seconded by Commissioner Rydell. Now we have our Sustainable Director, Prophet.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. Really brief on this. Since we've seen these items before, these are a part of the next phase of the post-site plan approval for this, for the Leader Self-Storage, right? The Leader Self-Storage site plan included landscaping and improvements in an area of land along the FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation right-of-way. Those improvements are higher quality because we have high standards. So, however, those improvements they don't exactly meet what FDOT's willing to maintain. So they require the city to maintain those improvements. The developer of the self-storage, as with the previous property just to the west of this, installed this larger sidewalk, enhanced landscape materials, and enhanced design. So this area here will connect to the existing enhanced sidewalk area. To do all of this, FDOT requires an agreement. This will be the 10th amendment to our existing agreements all along Hillsborough Boulevard. And after this is approved, the next step would be for the city and the developer, the property owner, to approve an agreement for the developer and the property owner to maintain the improvements that will be installed by this developer through the site plan. So we're here to approve the agreement for FDOT and the city, and then at the same time, we're going to approve an agreement between the property owner and the city. Ultimately, the property owner maintains these improvements.
Commissions or comments from Ms.
Yeah, just briefly, because, I mean, Sean's here, right? So I'm
Yes,
gonna-
he is.
Does Liz want to say anything? She's here.
Not for this item.
Okay. This isn't for the item, obviously. I support, obviously, items 11 and 12. I just want to, obviously, Sean's here. There's been some, I said it to Sean before the meeting, some commotion with some of the neighbors and things like that. I just want to thank Sean. Obviously, you're not a GC, you're not on the ground every day at the property, but I know that you did some outreach with some of the neighbors. Obviously, it's my district. I want to thank you for that. I know some of the issues have all been cleaned up, and we're back on positive partnership. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and I look forward to the project moving forward. Thank you.
And I just want to add, Sean, that I think the trees being planted today is going to make a significant difference in that relationship. So, again, anyone else? Okay. Then Commissioner Rydell, you take one video with you and I can't get you out of my mind.
I hope my wife's listening to that, Mayor.
City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Just to be clear, you're going to have to vote on both 11 and 12 separately, so this is just for item 11.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rowley,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Now we'll be voting on the next item, 12.
Commissioner Rydell,
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rowley,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Okay. Agenda items 13 and 14 are city-initiated quasi-judicial applications. We're now going to consider those items, and the procedures allow for a waiver of the right to a full quasi-judicial hearing. If the items are removed, the commission will hear a brief presentation from city staff and the city's consultant, and then the mayor will open the public hearing and entertain a motion and vote on the items. Does city staff want to make a request to remove these items from the quasi-judicial agenda at this item, as they are city-sponsored items?
Yes.
We'll now hear item 13. Are there any objection from the city staff, the applicant, the commission, or the public? And we'll also hear item 14 as they are related. Okay?
If I could, just really quickly, so I just want to confirm with the commission, so there's no objection to waiving the quasi-judicial procedure for items 13 and 14 since they are city-initiated items, correct?
Not
Great.
for me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brody? Okay. Right. I'll ask for a motion and a second to move the items respectively.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rydell and seconded by Commissioner Wasserman.
Sorry. I need to read the title. For item number 14, since we're hearing both together. I'm missing a page. Sorry. Pardon me, I can't read the title, I don't have it. If you could just give me a moment. It's all right. Thank you. Item number 13, ordinance number 2025-003, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida, approving the rezoning application for the properties located at 4100 and 4250 Northwest 74th Street from A1 Agricultural to P Parks and Recreation to facilitate the expansion of the existing Oak Trails Park facility legally described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, providing for findings, providing for conditions of approval, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. You've already moved the items. I'm going to now read the title for item number 14, which is ordinance number 2025-003. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida, approving the rezoning application for the properties located at 4100 and 4250 Northwest 74th Street from A1 Agricultural to P Parks and Recreation to facilitate the expansion of the existing Oak Trails Park facility legally described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, providing for findings, providing for conditions of approval, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Resolution.
Sorry. I just read the same title. My apologies. That was just in the wrong order in my book. The next one is a resolution. I'll go ahead and read the resolution title. Yes, 2025-007, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida, approving the site plan request of the City of Coconut Creek for the renovation and expansion of Oak Trails Park, an existing city park facility located at 4100, 4230, and 4250 Northwest 74th Street, legally described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, providing for findings, providing for conditions of approval, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion and a second to move item 13?
Move it. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Raley and seconded by Commissioner Wasserman. Is there a motion and a second to move item 14?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Brody and seconded by Commissioner Wasserman.
I apologize, we skipped the quasi-judicial procedures and I got all thrown off. I'm sorry. Are there any disclosures for items 13 and 14? Great, thank you.
I went by the park. So the city staff's now going to make a presentation on items 13 and 14. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll make a brief presentation by introducing both items together in a combined presentation. I'm going to introduce Liz Aguiar, Assistant Director, and she shepherded this through our development review process and through the Planning and Zoning Board, so she'll make a brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. So I know that Terrell has already read quite a bit of information, so I'll keep it brief, summarize it. So for agenda item 13, which is the Oak Trails Park rezoning, the applicant, Jessica Romer from Miller Legg and Associates, is here this evening on behalf of the city and is requesting a rezoning approval to rezone the two parcels, both from A1 agricultural to Parks and Recreation. As Terrell mentioned, the parcel on the west is located at 4250 Northwest 74th Street, and the parcel on the east is located at 4100 Northwest 74th. So for agenda item number 14, which is the Oak Trails Park site plan, again, the applicant, Jessica Romer from Miller Legg, is here representing the city this evening, seeking a site plan approval for the expansion of the existing Oak Trails Park facility. So the rezoning encompasses the two parcels that immediately abut the existing Oak Trails Park on the east and west, whereas the Oak Trails Park site plan encompasses all three of the parcels. A little bit of a distinction between the two. The park is, of course, located at the north end of the city between Lyons Road and Northwest 39th Avenue. Primarily, the park improvements are proposed to be passive in nature. We're proposing picnic areas, an expansion of the existing walking paths, the exercise stations. I think the largest improvement to the site will be the remodeling of the existing building that's on the property located on the west parcel, on the east parcel, to be turned into a nature center to provide for bathroom facilities and classrooms. I don't know yet that we truly have a programming for the nature center, but we do have representatives here from our Parks and Rec and Public Works. Perhaps they could provide some additional information on that. The other thing that the site plan is proposing is the addition of 29 parking spaces to support the nature center, with overflow parking kind of on the west part as grass overflow parking. The building will be LEED certified, as are most city facilities. And overall, staff finds that the agenda item number 13, which is Oak Trails Park rezoning, and a 14 for the Oak Trails Park site plan, comply with the city's Parks and Recreation System master plan, the minimum site plan application requirements, our land development code, our landscape code, and our comprehensive plan. We are fully supportive of these two applications and request that the City Commission support it as well. We do, again, have representatives here. Happy to take any additional questions, but that concludes staff's presentation. You want to add anything, Justin?
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I just wanted to take the time to go over a little timeline of where we went through to get to this point. Back in 2019, we had the Park Master Plan public outreach, and this project was discussed back then, and what came out of that primarily was a want for passive uses and minimal development. Then in March 12th of 2024, we had an additional public meeting at the rec complex, of which several of you were present, and we also got similar feedback 5 years later of minimal development and passive uses. Since then, we brought the 30% plans to you in May for discussion, and we received your feedback, and we've been progressing ever since. We've been through DRC, which we hope to have approval of next week. We've been through the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and the P&Z Board, and then we're back here today with what's approaching close to 90% plans. We've taken into account, input that we've had along the way, and we've reached a point where we're asking for site plan approval. We have Jessica here from Miller Legg, who will go through a small presentation, quick, because you all have been through this before, and then we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Romer. I am a designer with Miller Legg working on this project. I also have with me Brian Shore, the landscape architect on the project. As Brian had mentioned, this presentation has been presented in its different versions at the public meeting, at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and the Planning and Zoning Board. And so I will just go through it very briefly, and please let me know if you have any additional questions. This presentation will show a brief overview of the Oak Trails Park Improvements Project, including the rezoning and site plan. This map shows the analysis map of the existing park in the center parcel and the 2 proposed expansion parcels. These are photos of the existing conditions of all 3 parcels. Here we have a list of the program amenities that are required through the FCT grant. This slide shows some of our native vegetation plant palette that we will be including and planting on the proposed site. Here we have a rendered site plan of our proposed improvements, and something to note, what has changed since we last presented this site plan was some additions of sustainability measures, including a pollinator garden, a solar charging pole, and as well as adding additional tree canopy throughout the park to increase shade and meet the requirements of the landscape code. Here we have a few typical sections of what an experience would be like for visitors to the park. Here we have a site perspective, what the park would look like from a bird's eye view. As you can see, there is lots of tree canopy, and we did our best to preserve all the existing vegetation and create a low impact design for the parking layout. Here we have some of the site amenities that will be added to the park, as well as some fitness equipment and fencing that will be placed in the park to increase safety. And the program that we have for the Nature Center includes different rooms, including restrooms, custodial space, an office, and an interior assembly area and an exterior covered area. And as mentioned before, this building will be LEED certified. Here is a quick floor plan of that proposed floor layout. And here's a rendering of the proposed nature center. And thank you so much for your time. Please let us know if you have any questions.
I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on items 13 or 14? If so, please come forward and identify yourself. Okay. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. And I see we have 2 members of commission that are in the queue. Commissioner Rydell.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick cursory questions. What's the occupancy slated tentatively for the classroom/assembly room?
So the capacity for that building is at around 25 persons. And so it's expected that it will not be used quite frequently. There might, there's an office, so someone might be there if they're monitoring the park, but it's not expected that there will be someone there 24/7, and it'll be used specifically for events or for things that will help out with the park's intended use.
Is there going to be dog waste stations situated throughout the open spaces?
Yes, there is proposed dog waste stations, which will be provided in the plans as an alternate option for the city to provide in the park.
Is the mobile exercise equipment going to be collated and kind of correlated to what's existing in current Oak Trails?
So the proposed exercise equipment is meant to be an addition to the park, but it is a different aspect of the fitness equipment style. So these pieces will be more of a ninja course style, placed together with bright colors and meant to bring all ages into the park and interested in fitness, whereas the existing stations are spread out throughout a path and are meant to be used throughout a loop on a circuit.
I guess I have a staff-based question. So I think it's great. So I think you guys did your job. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to turn more to my staff on a couple points on there. Obviously, when it's in my district, right? And obviously, when we post signs of rezoning, it triggers engagement. You get people calling you. Ironically, we had a police barbecue in Crescent Creek. I don't know, about a month ago. And people are asking about it and asking what it is. The residents of District E fully support a passive park. The residents of District E, a majority of them, do not support any sort of active dog park or active ball fields. I think this has been consistent throughout the entire public hearing process. I'm glad we got to this point. It's actually funny, if we bought that land today, it would probably be 3 times the value. So I think we made a sound decision as a city when we purchased those 2 parcels. Real quick, I just want to go over the type of park we're doing here is directly, this is where I always know the answers to the questions, I just need it to be in the public. It's directly tied to the grant funding we're getting to do it. So Brian or whoever, Harry, Justin, somebody I know, I just need you to explain that what this project exactly. Just be very clear with that.
This is viewed as a phase 1, and in phase 1, we are strictly focused on meeting all of the requirements of the FCT grant. We designed this park so that there's opportunities in the future where we could add other amenities, even, fields, athletic fields, playgrounds, dog parks. That's all possible additions later. But funding-wise, and our focus is strictly on meeting the FCT grant requirements.
Correct. So we had to meet minimum standards, obviously, to grant, and the minimum standards for the grant specifically have it as a passive park.
Correct.
Thank you. The other question I have is more policy. So maybe, is Wayne still here? Oh, Wayne's still here. So it's really just a question that I was asked by a couple different neighborhoods, and I don't know the answer, but I want to ask because I want to answer the residents. There's 6, actually maybe 7, and we're just talking North Hillsborough-based associations, small associations, right? You have, my association, you have Tall Trees, you have, Pine Creek Estates, you have, Hidden Lake, you got a lot of smaller, Crescent Creek's a little bigger. These people are all asking, is this something, as opposed to going to the rec center, that we could have an HOA meeting in? So I didn't know the answer. I think the answer, I would hope, and Wayne, maybe it turns to you on staffing. I would hope the answer is yes, and I only say it because people are excited about this. I think people at the barbecue, I can't speak for my colleagues, I'll hear you if you chime in. When you put up a sign that you're rezoning something, people freak out. It's human nature. Like, you see a giant sign in your backyard and what the hell's going there? You don't really know. And I think, at least in my experience from the residents I know in Crescent Creek at that barbecue and other neighboring communities, their biggest concern is what are you putting here? Are you drawing people in? I assured everybody, at least what my position is. I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but they did ask a couple of really good questions. Lisa Aronson chimed in an email this evening, but I had spoke to them about it, which is the dog bags. People use that park routinely. I jog to that park and use the exercise equipment in that park, so that's why the correlation would be great. But just speak to me of the ability of residents using that space.
Yes, as Jessica stated, it's going to have a cap of 25 people, so if the associations in the area want to do a HOA meeting, then it'll be available. We are not going to have staff there. We're going to have minimal staff there, basically. We don't know what the schedule is going to be like as of yet, but there is going to be some type of staff in the park.
And then it flips me to my next question on top of the association issue for the purpose of really use is will an individual resident have the ability of renting that? Because I know we work it a little differently with our associations, especially at rec center space. So I guess on a purposing level, is that something that somebody could say, hey, you know, I want to rent this for a couple hours to, you know, host a meeting or host a get together or, you know, something like that. Host my kid's birthday party.
It could be something to look into, like you said, if it's a birthday party of some sort, and we feel that we can have that type of program or activity within that facility, then yeah, it's something to look into, obviously.
And I'm all for obviously setting guidelines and things like that up, but like that open space, it's like we got a lot of hidden gems with our pavilions right now. This is something that I think can serve a tremendous use, especially to the area. And then the only thing I'd like Miller to walk me through is I've seen about 4 different reiterations as we've developed this over the past 5 years, really, of the parking and the traffic flow, right? So we've laid out the parking lot differently in different reiterations. We've changed it a couple times. Just speak to me about why you believe this is the best reiteration, because we have other site plans in the hopper that stage it a little differently. So I'm just curious from an expertise standpoint of why this is the decision you made in regarding the parking flow and the parking spaces.
Yes, of course. So if you take a look at the site plan here, on the northern side of the east parcel, that area was originally meant to be the parking lot. And as you can see, there are a ton of trees there. And all of the trees there that are not immediately along the existing road are all existing trees. So placing a parking lot there would have taken out all of those trees, which many are character oaks and very nice trees that provide lots of shade. So we looked at a low impact design, bringing the drive aisle down into the center of the parcel where there were not very many trees, and currently there's a large open area, and we aligned that landscape island in the center of the roundabout, you know, the parking shaped roundabout area. We placed that perfectly to keep that tree that's right there, that large existing character oak, and not to affect it. And we also prioritized native plantings. So we looked at slash pines, live oaks, anything that was native on site in good condition that we could keep. And we prioritized if we had to remove a tree that it would be a non-native that was in poor condition or could pose a problem for safety. And then if you take a look at the western parcel, we did need to provide overflow parking areas on the site. And so if we had paved all of these parking spots, it would have greatly increased the area that was paved, and it would have made a lot less of the space pervious. And so we proposed, if you take a look at the site plan, there is a dashed outline of parking spaces where in an event or a time when there was need for all this additional parking, they could use that open area, and we utilized that space because there were currently no existing trees there and it wouldn't affect any of the existing conditions. And we also believe that since this is a passive park, that the parking number that was required through the code that we did meet with the overflow parking didn't adequately reflect the day-to-day use of this park. So we chose to only pave the parking spaces that we thought reflected what was needed for day-to-day use for the passive park.
So I'm going to chime in just because I'm curious what my colleagues think about it. I liked some of the earlier parking reiterations. I liked it. So let's just, I don't want to talk about the western parcel because I understand how we're using overflow on essentially a non-asphalted, a permanent facility, support that. Some of the initial drawings that we had seen that, are in earlier backup. And this is where you kind of get like, do I want to be a pro-tree guy or an anti-tree guy? I don't know the answer to that. But I liked some of the reiterations where on the eastern parcel, a majority of the parking was staged on, if we're all looking at the picture, on the top right corner. So in some of those reiterations, we had a lot of more parking up there. It seems like we're paving a majority of a 5-acre parcel, right? If you look at this just on an aerial, we got a big kind of drive-through swath around as opposed to that current drive-through could be in a passive way, walking area where we could stage a parking area more towards the street. So when I saw this reiteration come out, that's the only thing that I saw. I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm saying that I think we're wasting a little potential extra green space in a passive park if we're able to stage that more like how we stage, if you look at the existing park, if you look at Oak Trails as it exists, we stage that parking up. Now, that's not enough for there. Listen, I go to that park, those parking spots are routinely filled, people park on the street. Obviously, there's walking trails, horse trails, so I'm just curious about that. I understand saving trees. There's a part of me that says this is a little. We're going too inward on a 5-acre parcel, understanding that there's fitness areas. But if people are going there, I don't think they need to drive to almost 3-4 acres in, and you're covering the entire center of it with parking.
Yeah.
And I know there's other reiterations you have that could easily be swapped out on a site plan level. I don't know if you have them ready to show my colleagues whether or not they know about it. I don't mean to say it like that, and I don't mean to hit you guys with like this in the 11th hour. I just wanted to talk about it. So that's my only potential thing about that parcel. So.
And I appreciate the discussion. I did just want to make one more point. Part of the driving force from bringing the parking closer to the building was due to fire department and building department requirements for fire access. So we were required, I believe it was within 100 feet of the building, to have a fire hydrant available and accessible to a fire truck. So part of the radii that you see there is meeting the code for fire access, since that building will be used publicly at times of the day.
And that's why I wanted the discussion. I apologize if I cut you off.
No worries.
So and then it kind of shifts down to like, can we extend? I get that. I just see on the southern portion of it, do we have the ability of extending those parking spaces more on the north side? You see what I'm saying? So if you look at it like a circle, right now we're heavily situated. Then we got the nature center on the western corner, but there's just a lot of parking as opposed to moving to the north side to maximize space. It's semantical. I needed clarity on it, but I just think we're paving over a lot of potential usable green space. That's just my only. I fully support this. I support everything you've done. I've been at every single community meeting. The community supports this. I'm just trying to maximize, for lack of a better term, open field space.
Yes, understandable.
Just food for thought. If anyone
Commissioner
thinks,
Wasserman.
whatever.
Commissioner Wasserman.
I was listening to him what he was saying, and then when you had your reasoning, I see the reasoning and the ordinance and everything we need and code and blah blah blah. I got you. In terms of and I know we had the public hearing, and actually a resident messaged me, and I guess there was talks about a dog park here, and can you talk about, and maybe Sheila can talk about, how the proximity of a dog park close to horse trails and barns is just not a smart thing to do and the right thing to do for our current I don't know if somebody wants to talk to it, but why that's not a good idea?
Well, I will weigh in and suggest that we've had several public engagement meetings, and there's been discussion of dog parks in this area. There's also a very active horse community in the area. So in lieu of proposing a dog park, we provided the dog waste pickup stations, and the idea would be that your dogs are leashed and under an owner's control as opposed to roaming. The more important factor is that we have not budgeted for a dog park at this time in this phase, and we do think if you even considered it would require an additional public out.
Right, but putting a dog park near, I understand that, but putting a dog park near barns and horses
could be problematic.
Is problematic and not a smart city thing to do. Is that correct?
I have.
Because there was a lot. I did research,
concerns about it.
I did research. I did do a little research before I bring this up. So I don't want to. I just want to clear. Okay.
Well, I would have a question on it because they have dogs on farms, so I don't know why that would be interfering with that.
Well, the dogs are trained by the owners of the farms.
Well, we're not budgeting for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be something that would be a questionable item, because dogs on farms, dogs walk by horses right here on our trail. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but certainly we're not budgeted for it. So that'd be something we could talk about for maybe a 2030 conversation.
For next phase. Absolutely, we can have the discussions with that after the community meetings, and probably should do so. Does anyone else have anything before I go? Vice Mayor Raley?
Yeah, I was just concerned about the amount
Is your mic on, Jack?
Sorry. I thought that one was on. Sorry. I was just concerned about the number of parking, if we have sufficient parking. And I see where it is located, and I can get Commissioner Rydell's point that it's right in the middle. But it's also convenient for the rest of the park. It's almost centrally located, so that no one has to go to extreme to one end or the other. But I was wondering, but we do have the capabilities of additional parking if necessary on the north.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
There's 2 different zones for overflow parking along the entry drive on that northeast corner, as well as the open field on the western north corner. That whole area can be used for parking, and this site has the capacity for over 100 parking spaces, including the overflow.
Thank you.
And might I just jump in as it relates to the location of the parking? One of the things I think the principal driving factor associated with this east parcel is the new building and the utility of that building. So might I suggest that we, as we refine the construction plans, we look at whether we can shift some of that parking north to minimize the impact to the south, while maintaining that direct access, the handicap access, and the fire access to the building. We do expect it to operate very similarly to the Rose Center, which we expect to have rentals continuously for baby showers, birthday parties, HOA meetings. So we do expect that piece of the property to be active for those types of meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Rose. At this point, I wasn't trying to make a change to a site plan. I was just bringing it up for discussion, and I think I appreciate the consultant being clear with that, just because I look at the functional use of Oak Trails as it sits, and the functional uses, and Jackie, to your point, I mean, people at Oak Trails park in the entry and they walk, and it's a big, beautiful walking trail. And just to my colleagues, whether you have been all the way in that park or not, the entire south boundary, that's all equestrian. And that trends over into the eastern parcel as well. Right. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Getting back to the Nature Center, this is a passive park, so it will be closed. It's considered to be closed at what time?
So the park will be open dawn to dusk, and so it will be closed at night. So as long as there's no natural light, the park will be closed.
Well, that's where I was going with this, especially in the rental of the Nature Center. And so the row is actually located outside of Donaldson Park, so it's rented up until I think we have to vacate at 8:30, and then on the weekend it's an earlier time through the day. So I was just kind of curious because for the uses of it, and then if it would be available in the evening or not, based on the conditions of it being a passive park, and when it would be secured and locked.
Mayor? Yeah, that'll be something that we'll look into once we get the facility up and going. I'll get with my staff. We'll see what kind of feedback we get from the community in the area to see what type of programming and staffing that we'll have to do for the facility.
Okay, no, I'm totally in favor. I mean, I think it's marvelous because we do not have enough spaces, especially of this capacity. And so you talked about the hours. The pollinator garden, where is that located? I must have missed that.
Yes, so the pollinator garden was actually just added in this past round of revisions with post the conditional approval received at the Planning and Zoning Board. And that pollinator garden will be located just south of the Nature Center, slightly to the east, right in that central location, so that people who are visiting the Nature Center can also visit the pollinator garden.
Okay, and that's staff maintained?
Yes.
Okay. The security, can you talk about the security? I know we have cameras on the building, but the security overall, a bit.
So security-wise, we're going to have site lighting on the exterior of the building on all 4 sides, and then we're having the infrastructure put in for cameras on all 4 sides of the building as well. Security-wise, beyond that is there'll be gates along 74th for the entrances. a split rail fence preventing vehicular access along 74th, and a continuous chain link fence around the 3 back sides of the park.
And the reason I say that is because I noticed on the actual photos, there's a lot of graffiti on the current nature center as it stands now. The comment that came up during planning and zoning about bike lanes, adding them on 74th, and I know it's a very narrow road and it has calming devices on it, but is there a way to mark a shared lane capability on 74th that would answer the request for a resident? And I don't know how costly that is or how it has to be established.
Yeah, I think I could take that question. So that was one of the comments at the Planning and Zoning Board about the potential for bike lanes or share roads or pedestrian types of facilities along 74th. It's a constrained roadway. It's narrow compared to other types of roadways because it's a rural area. It's something that we can look into. The concept of a sharrow, if you don't know what a sharrow is, it's a symbol showing a bike in the roadway itself. These do really well on roadways like this, where they're more rural, less traffic. It's not Lyons, it's an off-road, it's a local street, and it could be used to connect between other areas. I know there are future plans, maybe along 39th, that there's identified projects to connect pedestrians. That could be something, a symbol used in the roadway to connect these areas in the future and into the park.
That it would be considered a calming, but at least it would designate that they do have the right to be there. And the concrete fence, split rail, excuse me, is all along 74th, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I have nothing else. Does anyone, Commissioner Rydell.
Yeah, just to be clear, the operational standpoint of this, right? Well, obviously, a consultant's making recommendations. Operationally, it's a park, right? Operationally, Mr. Toby and Ms. Rose could come up with whatever they want to be open when we want, to use the facilities how we want. Is that fair?
Correct. We will have, as we develop it, the infrastructure is fairly limited, and the exterior lighting doesn't meet exterior lighting for nighttime activities as of yet, but it certainly could be added in a future phase. There's safety lighting proposed as part of this project.
Safety lighting mean only till dusk? Is that what that means? I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, it kind of negates everything I just asked. I mean, HOAs aren't meeting at 4 o'clock. HOAs are meeting at 6, 7 o'clock at night. So the answer to that question should have been, no, we're not having HOAs meeting there because it's going to be too late at night. That should have been the answer for whoever chose to answer that question for me. Am I hearing that correctly? I mean, Wayne, I'd love you to chime in because of it. Listen, this has nothing to do with the site plan. I'm asking about functionality. I'm okay with what the answer is, but I want to be able to correctly answer our residents, and I want to BS somebody and say, oh, you're going to be able to meet there, and guess what? You can't.
I think we'll have to look at it because obviously the time changes and it gets dark at 8:30, 9 o'clock at times. So it depends when the meetings are, but it's something that we have to look into, with the staffing and, evening hours, because Donaldson Park, currently, we don't do the rentals in the evening there because of the homeowners that are around the park. So we're going to have to set up a time and to do these.
Okay. And again, it has nothing to do with the item, but I'm saying it because that's a concern of residents. It's an inquiry of an amenity. So if we're offering an amenity, great. If we're not, we're not. I just want to be clear on what we're doing.
But it might help clarify if Brian could explain the lighting along the interior drive.
Right. Along the interior drive coming into?
Coming into the park.
Yeah, there is no lighting along the interior drive whatsoever. So per code, there are certain photometric requirements for the parking area, and once the sun goes down, you're not meeting those code requirements. So this would truly have to be a dusk to dawn situation currently.
So the answer should have been no. Let's just be clear. The answer should have been, no, Josh, we're not having HOA
If it's in the evenings, then yes, the answer should be no.
I could have shut up 10 minutes ago. So you've clarified it. I can let the residents know that HOAs are not going to be meeting there at night. unless there's, they want to meet
Unless
at
they
4
want to
o'clock.
meet during the day.
They can meet on the weekends.
On the weekends, things of that
Yeah.
nature. Got it.
We
Thank
have
you for
that
the clarity.
Sorry, Vice Mayor Raley.
No worries. On the same vein, the lighting at Rose Center isn't very bright. I mean, I know the Rose Center is right off the road, so you're not going through an unlit trail. So I guess that's the difference. But there are some very dark areas at the Rose Center, and they do utilize that a lot in the evenings. Also, we're not saying that at some point in the next phase we could put additional lighting, but right. So if someone does want to rent the facility, this is a question. There is a fee, but will that fee include the cost of staffing? Because if someone's renting, now we have to have additional staffing to open, set it up, and close it. So, I know that's operational, and that's to be determined, right?
We would establish a fee schedule for the rental.
Thank you.
I guess we'll move along to comments and deliberation on item 13, the Oak Trails Park rezoning application. Are there any more comments or deliberation? Based on the testimony presented and the applicant's consistency with the city's land development regulations and comprehensive plan, a motion and a second to approve item 13.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Raley, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Brody. So I'm now calling for a vote on item 13. City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. And now for any further comments and deliberation by the commission on item 14, that's the Oak Trails Park site plan application. If there are none, based on the testimony presented and the application's consistency with the city's land development regulations and comprehensive plan, we'll need a motion and a second to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wasserman and seconded by Commissioner Brody. So we now have a motion and a second, and I'm calling for a vote on item 14. City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. Thank you very much. Agenda item 15 is ordinance 2025-001. It is a first reading, and our city attorney Pyburn is going to read the title.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2025-001, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida, adopting the impact fee study entitled City of Coconut Creek Impact Fee Study, dated January 15, 2025, prepared by Benesh, Inc., amending the city's Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 13, Land Development Code, Article 1, Administration, Regulations, and Procedures, Division 5, Impact Fees, by deleting Sections 118 through 126 relating to impact fees in their entirety, and creating a new Section 118, Fire Rescue, Law Enforcement, and Parks and Recreation Impact Fees, to adopt a new impact fee program for fire rescue, law enforcement, and parks and recreation facilities, and by amending Chapter 13, Land Development Code, Article 2, Subdivision Regulations, Division 5, Subdivision Design Standards, to delete Section 13-267, Public Sites and Open Spaces, in its entirety, to delete dedication requirements for residential developments, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. This item is before you at this time for first reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 15?
Move it. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wasserman and seconded by Commissioner Rydell. And we have our Sustainable Development Director back to make this report.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We're gonna go through our slides. There are a good number of them, but it's an important topic. But I first want to just say, I don't know exactly. More than that. Yeah. I want to first thank all of. I just want to tell you this has been a a long process and a very important and complicated analysis that our consultant and a lot of the city staff members have participated in. When we started this a couple years ago, we involved almost every department in the city in terms of inventory analysis and cost data. So we all gathered together, including the city manager's office, and participated in providing all of the information, a lot of the information that went into this. So this is a request to update the city's fire rescue, law enforcement impact fees, and we also will be creating a brand new Parks and Recreation Facilities impact fee. That's going to replace the old system that we did. All three will require an amendment to the city's land development code by deleting the old ordinances and the fee schedules and replacing them with a new ordinance, which is before you tonight. So you're going to have a study to adopt and a brand new impact fee ordinance with all the charts on your agenda here. This request also includes, well, I said that. To give you some background, the city's impact fees were last updated in 2006, and at that time, we created the fire rescue and the police, or what we call in this study, the law enforcement impact fee programs. As for Parks and Recreation, that ordinance was adopted in 1986, and although the city has been very successful in preserving and creating parks and recreation facilities since that time, it is time to update that ordinance, bringing forward a new fee to provide consistency with a lot of the many legal changes that have occurred over the years in the statutes. I'd like to introduce the city's consultant, Nguyen Camp, who is the principal associate with Benish. They used to be called Tyndale and Oliver, but they are now called Benish. Benish has significant experience across Broward County and the state of Florida, and nationwide now too, I think, studying, preparing, and implementing new impact fee programs for municipalities, school boards, counties, and other similar agencies. The city selected Benish as a consultant due to their extensive experience ensuring that our study and the proposed impact fees align with current laws and to support the costs of new capital facilities required by the city's anticipated growth and development in the coming years. With that, Nguyen will present the findings on the study, and then she'll turn it back to me to briefly just go over some of the changes in the brand new ordinance and give the recommendation. Nguyen?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. I'm Nguyen Camp with Benish. The presentation starts with a brief background review and then goes through the technical analysis and then the next steps. As Justin explained, we are studying fire rescue, law enforcement, and parks and recreation service areas, and the purpose of the study is to reflect most current and localized data and meet the requirements of burden of proof. Impact fees are, by definition, one-time capital charge to new development. Their purpose is to cover the cost of new additional capital facilities. They can only be used for capacity addition projects. They cannot be used for maintenance, operations, renovations, but they do free up general tax dollars, and they sort of indirectly help those programs as well. They implement capital improvement plans, and their main purpose is to maintain the level of service. They calculate the cost of growth, and they are most needed when there are high growth levels and limited alternative funding. So impact fees in Florida were governed by case law for a long time, and then in 2006 we had the Impact Fee Act pass, and then it had several changes since then, but some of its key requirements are that fees be based on most recent and localized data. Whenever there's an increase in the fees, there's a minimum of 90-day notice requirement before they can be implemented. And if there's any challenge to the fee, now the government has to show that their fees are accurate. It used to be the other way around. The other side had to show there was something wrong. And there are several other requirements. Typically, impact fees require equity among land uses in that they are different than taxes. They are based on the impact of each land use. So we cannot reduce one category and keep the other one. Whatever reduction we have to do, it has to apply to all land uses equally. But in 2019, an exception was made for the affordable and workforce housing. So the local governments now have the ability to waive or reduce fees for qualified affordable workforce housing without having to offset. And then the same agreement required indexing of developer credits when fees increase. Then in 2021, we had the House Bill 337 passed, and it put some limits on how much the fees can be increased and a requirement of that increase to be phased. So fees cannot be increased more than 50%. They cannot be increased more than once every 4 years. And that 50% has to be done over 4 installments. There's an exception clause if the local government shows extraordinary circumstances, holds 2 public workshops discussing those circumstances, and then the 2/3 of the governing body votes for it, the increase could be higher than 50%, and the phasing requirements are waived. And then this most recent act relates primarily to transportation impact fees, but it also requires studies having to be completed and adopted in 12 months if the fees are increasing, and also they need to use data available within the past 4 years. So the technical study is using a consumption-based methodology which charges new growth for the value of the infrastructure that is consuming. It's very common in Florida. It has never been successfully challenged, and fees are calculated at a rate that they don't generate enough revenues to cover existing deficiencies, and that's one of the legal requirements. We cannot charge new development for existing deficiencies. We can only charge on what we are able to provide. So the basic impact fee formula looks at cost to add capacity, that's the value of the inventory, and then to the extent that the city is using other revenue sources like taxes, a portion will come from new development, and that's subtracted so that we are not charging new growth once through the impact fee and once through the tax. And then that net cost is multiplied by demand, which is measured in terms of population. So this chart is showing a summary of the fees for several example land uses. You can kind of see by category fire, low parks. So for a multifamily home of 1,700 square foot or so, the total calculated fee with the parks impact fee would be about $4,200. And currently it's $760. Again, part of that is there's no parks impact fee right now, and that's a big part of it. And then when we apply the limits by the statute to the fire and low impact fees, that $4,200 is reduced to $4,100 or so. So in each service area, we start with a review of the inventory, look at the level of service, cost and credit components, and then calculate the fee and provide some comparisons. So if we start with fire rescue, there are 2 fire stations with 23,000 square feet and 3 acres of land, as well as vehicles and equipment. These are the capital inventory. For building values in each area, we looked at anything the city built, if there are any bids or estimates for upcoming construction, looked at the insured values of the current buildings, and then supplemented that with data from other jurisdictions. So fire stations were estimated at $450 per square foot. And then for land, a similar analysis was completed, looking at any recent purchases by the city, value of the land where the current stations are located, and then the sales and vacant land values from the property appraiser. So that was estimated at about $350,000 per acre. Level of service for capital purposes is measured in terms of population per station. For operational, they obviously measure it in terms of response time, but for capital facilities, it's, again, population per station, and each station is handling about 27,000 people. So the total asset value with buildings, land, vehicles, and equipment is about almost $22 million. That divided by the population gives us a value of $400 per person. So that measures the investment the community has made into fire rescue infrastructure up to this point. That's sort of our starting point to charge new development. When we review other source allocations, there wasn't any set allocation. City used some funds in the past, but there was no intention of continually using them. So we did provide a 10% credit just to give you some flexibility to be able to use other funds and not only be relying on impact fees. With that reduction, the net cost is about $360. And that cost gets multiplied by residents per unit for each of the land uses to come up with the fee. So here, the calculated fee, again, for a multifamily home is about $425. If it's about, I think, $1,700, current fee is $498, so that would be a decrease of 15%. So the maximum fee was $425. So depending on the land uses, there are increases and decreases. Your current fee schedule has a single rate. Everything is combined, so that's why you see fluctuations. There's no differentiation right now. And then this chart is providing comparisons to other jurisdictions. In each of these, we put the study date so you have a sense how old their data is, and then also adoption percentage. In some cases is less than 100%, could be. So this group is range for a single family mid-size home, it's ranging from $230 to about $800. For a multifamily, it's anywhere from $145 to about $490. Law enforcement has about 30,000 square feet and 7 acres of land. There's also vehicles and equipment. Building value is estimated at $300 per square foot, and land is $275,000 per acre. Level of service is measured in terms of officers per 1,000 residents, so that's right around 2.2. So the total asset value is $26 million. That divided by population gives us about almost $480 per resident, again, measuring the investment the community has made into law enforcement infrastructure so far. And with the credit, the net cost ends up being about $430. And that multiplied by residents per unit gives us the fee schedule. So here, the multifamily is about $510. Current adopted rate is about $265. So that's the increase exceeding the 50% threshold. So the maximum allowable fee is about $400. And then the comparison, you can kind of see for a multifamily, this group of jurisdictions charge anything from $50 to about $440. Parks and Recreation, there's about 216 acres in the inventory. That gives us a level of service of 3.6 acres per 1,000 population. The city's adopted level of service standard is about 3 acres. So the achieved level of service shows us the investment, and adopted level of service standard shows us going forward what the city intends to do. So we charge lower of the two. If we haven't achieved it, we can't charge new development, and if we don't intend to continue to provide that, again, we don't want to charge them for that. So we use the 3 acres for the calculations. Land value, with the land purchase costs as well as the site prep costs estimated at altogether $400,000 per acre, and that multiplied by 3 and with the 3 acre standard results in a cost of $1,200 per resident. And then the recreational facilities are estimated about $323,000 per acre, or like $1,100 per resident. So combined, total cost per resident is about $2,400, and it's about 50% on land and 50% recreational facilities. The city allocated funds from other sources like general fund and capital improvement fund and so forth. So that generates a credit. And that's based on a review of past 4 or 5 years of investments. And then there's debt service associated with Lakeside Park with outstanding payments. That's also generates a credit. So the net cost ends up being about $1,900 per resident. And that multiplied by residents per unit gives us the fee. Parks impact fees are charged only to residential land uses, whilst fire and law, they are charged both residential and non-residential. So again, the fees range anywhere from $3,300 for multifamily to about $6,200 for a larger single-family home. And then the comparison here, again, for a single-family home, this group of jurisdictions charge anywhere from $1,100 to about $4,600. We have another, and then there are a few more here. This ranges from $1,500 to about $10,000. This is again the summary chart, kind of providing you total fees and the allowable fees. And then, because we have phasing requirements with the new legislation, this is showing what the fees would be year 1 through 4. So multifamily would start about, if everything is adopted, if the parks is adopted at 100% and the others adopted at maximum rates, then the first year the total fees would be about $4,000, then it would increase to $4,100 at the end of the year 4. I'm sorry? Dwelling unit, I'm sorry. So now I'll turn it over.
Yes, thank you. So Negan just went over the analysis performed in the study and the justification for the proposed impact fees. I'm going to go over some of just the points of the ordinance very briefly. So we are amending the city's land development code, so we'll be taking out a couple of sections relating to our existing fire, rescue, and law enforcement fees, and also deleting that section of parks and recreation impact in lieu ordinance, and we'll be adopting this brand new ordinance. The impact, and I just want to make this very clear, the impact fees are imposed on new development projects or expansions or changes of use that generate a need for expanded city services. And throughout that ordinance, it's a term called impact generating projects, AKA new development. And that's an important term in the new ordinance. The new ordinance provides new definitions. It outlines how this ordinance applies to development, and it also provides, importantly, it also provides exemptions of what is exempt from impact fees in our new ordinance. It also outlines procedures for developer contribution credits, use of funds and refunds, updating and reporting, vested rights, penalties, and appeals. So it's very comprehensive. As Negan said, the Florida statutes now require a 4-year phase-in schedule. So all of these charts have that 4-year phase-in schedule. It will have the increase dates, if they're increasing, and the dollar amounts. So that will all be built into the new ordinance. And essentially what's happening is fees will be increasing. If they're increasing more than 12.5%, they must be phased in over 2 to 4 equal installments at no more than 12.5% increase for a maximum total 50%. Now, having said that, you'll notice throughout that ordinance, there are a number of fees that are decreasing as well. So as Negan said, it's across the board, and there are a lot more land use definitions in this ordinance now compared to what we had before. As you know, the Planning and Zoning Board reviewed this ordinance, held a public hearing, and unanimously approved this at the previous meeting. And I just want to say again, and it's important clarification, this recommendation is for a maximum increase of no more than 50% if it is increasing for applicable land uses, which requires the 4-year phase-in schedule, except for parks and recreation. Those are new and not subject to that max 50% rule, so those are the raw calculation is being proposed there. Thank you. and 48 slides. There was a question earlier.
So
Next steps. Yes, you want to take that?
So the next steps, we are here to answer any questions, and then implementation process would move forward with the second reading, and then the fees would be effective 90 days after.
We'll open it for commission comments, and Commissioner Rydell.
How do you say the name of the company?
Benesh?
Benesh?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh, it's per somebody's name.
Oh, okay.
I think his name was Alfred Benesh.
Benesh. All right. I didn't want to mispronounce it. Are we imposing the maximum allowable impacts on the ones we're increasing?
On the ones we're increasing?
So, I mean, my question is, are we going with the most amount of impact fees that we legally can?
Yes.
And could you define new development, please, sir?
New development are additions to buildings, brand new buildings. In some cases, there could be a change of use in a building, and all those different activities create a need for additional capacity, which generates additional impact fees.
Maybe I should have phrased the question better. I apologize, Justin. Could you define how the city defines new development in regarding current and future projects?
New development in terms of current, well, those are all brand new buildings, so those would be subject to impact fees.
An important point of clarification is that the Main Street developer addressed their Parks and Recreation impact fees. Okay.
I should have just asked it.
The Parks and Recreation impact through the development of regional impact, so the Parks and Recreation impact fees in this ordinance would not apply. The police and fire impact fees are modifications, and they would be subject to those, and they have been informed of this.
Because they're currently existing.
Yes.
Okay, so then I guess my question is, if you're on an initial submission in sustainable development, right, are you subjected, so you answer my question, you're subjected to the increase even if it's pending, if you don't have a CO ultimately?
Yeah, you pay these fees at building permit, so if you have not paid your building permit fees, you're subject to them.
Okay, so that's the trigger event?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be Gray Star and, right, they would correct, right,
Correct.
Taro? Yeah.
Correct. Building permit fees, at the time of building permit.
Understood. And I mean, just a quick, I got to ask it. I support it. I support the work that went in. Tremendous presentation. Thank you. Benesh. It's good. I'm going to ask, maybe, I don't know if Justin or Liz or anyone up here knows it, maybe Peter Gay, hi Peter, okay. What do we believe the fiscal impact is going to be moving forward with future development services on this? Is this going to be, obviously we're raising more money, there's a higher impact fee, we're increasing, we're expanding. So I'm just wondering what the anticipated fiscal impact would be.
Yeah, I mean, for give you an example, it's hard to tell because we're expanding a lot of the land uses compared to, we only had 8 of them before categories, now we have about 20. And then and if you look throughout that, some are going up, some are going down. So it's hard to tell just looking at it that way. So we looked at a few example developments in terms of industrial. Industrial land uses are going down in terms of impact
Based on the chart, correct?
Yes. Residential generally are going up. Parks and recreation significantly going up. Costs are higher. It depends on the type of project.
And then I guess the follow-up to that is that earmarked funding. Meaning if I'm just curious because we're expanding the fee structure here. So is that going to, it's not all going to the general fund?
No.
No.
Just tell me, I just want, walk me through, Peter Gay's getting up. She's up. She's had enough. That's what I'm just curious on, because that's the one thing, the presentation, I support this completely. I think it's important that the city doesn't eat the cost for this, so I completely support it. I'm just wondering on the fiscal avenue, give me the examples, Peter Gay, of, we're having a larger category of impact fees. I'm just curious what pot Explain to me the pots.
So good evening, everyone. So basically, we do have separate funding for impact fees. By law, we have to keep it separate from the general fund or any other funding sources. So it will be set aside specifically for future capital projects that we would have to use funding for. For example, if we're going to be doing a new fire station or expanding our police department, then we could use those earmarked funds for those specific purposes, and it would be tracked separately.
Creative. So for the purposes of the budget, like right now, we have the undergrounding impact fees, right? So there's a pot that we got in. It's going to be essentially you're creating new funds for some of these newly created impact fee accounts.
Right. Right now, we already have those funds established, and the new fees that we'll be collecting from the new developments will go into that fund.
With new statutory criteria of how we can use it.
Yes.
I'm good.
Commissioner Brody?
Just hold on, Peter Gay. Hold on. One more question. I just want to clarify. So if we do an impact fee for fire, it's going to go into the fire pot?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so that's what I want my clarity.
I just have one, and I'm not sure who to direct it to, but probably, no, well, not probably, not this question. I think you just like saying that word now. He's really in love with that word. It is a good name. It's catchy. So, but why now, since 2006?
Well, well, how about you start with that? Because there's
Okay.
a lot of the statutory changes.
Right. The 2006 Act, one of the requirements was that the fees be based on most recent and localized data. Now, they did not define recent, so it varied, but I think that was sort of a trigger to kind of remind everybody to start updating their studies. So that could be one of the reasons when you'll start.
Because it was very telling. The previous impact fees, particularly to light industrial, and the significance. You remember a few years ago when we got dinged a lot by that very category. So, and then to see the disparity now between it and the residential. So it was to me, it was very enlightening that we did need to have this, regardless of whether it came through statute or not. We did need to have this re-up for our impacts fees overall. But yeah, it's a great presentation. It makes my head spin thinking about all of it. I don't have any further questions except on one slide. I was curious. I know it didn't come before us for a formula change the last time, but I think it's on page 22. I just was curious, is Deerfield Beach really that for light industrial and general office and retail at $17.36 and 65? I mean, that's just bizarre.
Oh, here. Oh.
I saw that of note too, and I think Pompano and Deerfield have a unique infrastructure a little bit in terms of some of their industrial.
they-
I mean, Dixie
they
Highway.
are-
if you
The way
look at
they
some of
include
those.
it.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Pompano has the highest district, but it's not. But Deerfield second highest in terms of some of their industrial uses. So I don't know. I don't know.
I was just curious.
Yeah, those are the rates that they are publishing as what they are charging. There could have been a buy down, or it could have been based on maybe incident data.
What do you mean a buy down?
Some jurisdictions, if they want to encourage certain developments, they buy the fees down, say through economic development pots or general fund or so on.
So it's like an incentive.
Exactly.
I got it. Okay, you just used a different term than I was used to. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing that we could do ultimately down the road.
Or not.
Or not.
We're looking. Okay. Well, anyway, does anyone else have any more questions? Then, City Clerk, Kavanaugh, have there been any members of the public that signed up to speak on this item?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Yes, we're getting right along. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item? All right. Then, City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Thank you very much. City Manager Rose, do you have a report?
Very, very briefly, we're very excited. Monday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we will be hosting the Hate Ends Now mobile exhibition. It'll be staged hopefully right out in the courtyard starting on Sunday. And thank you to Bernadette Police and everybody that's agreed to organize that on Sunday. We'll have the lunch bunch having a tour of it. And throughout the day, we'll have school kids from around the city coming in half-hour blocks. We have also opened it up to our staff to attend, and I hope you'll get a chance to go. As it relates to the county commission meeting, we do understand there's a time certain of 1:15. We are continuing to urge people to sign up for bus transportation, and I will just let you know that the county staff is continuing to add backup every, to the agenda item, even this afternoon. So we will be continuing to monitor that throughout the weekend and getting prepared for Tuesday. That's all.
City Attorney Piper?
I just wanted to let you know that we are working with outside counsel, Ralph DeMeo, to try to draft a letter to be sent to Broward County regarding the landfill item, and we'll forward it to you before it goes out.
Commissioner Rydell.
Yeah, I'll provide a quick, just kind of update. I emailed you all, I forwarded you all literally before the commission meeting, so you may not have seen it.
No.
The letter, and I know we've chatted through this, I updated the city manager, but I'll just say it publicly. At the Solid Waste Authority meeting last week, now that we have a seat on the executive committee, full consensus by the executive board was given to pen a letter to, now it's not an objection, it's saying you need to wait, because if you want to be a stakeholder, Mayor Ryan, who's now the chair from Sunrise, is now the chair of the executive committee. He penned a letter, about a 10-page letter, extraordinarily comprehensive, well-written education letter. God, I hope the county commissioners read it. I forwarded it all to you. You all have it in your inbox. It was CC'd to me, so I wanted to make sure you all have it. The city of Fort Lauderdale, the city of Pembroke Pines, I'm hoping the city of Hollywood, mayors have all reached out requesting the same. This is the first time that I've really seen non-North Broward cities taking a stand, and I think it really it speaks to the regional issue on this. So I think we're going to have a really good showing. I'm hopeful people are receptive. I would urge all of you that have relationships with elected officials. I know, Jeff, you were in Weston for a while. I know, John, you have a pretty good relationship with the mayor of Weston, and Sandy and Jackie, some of the colleagues that you have. I know Deerfield's with us, and those calls need to be made. I was pretty proactive because I know for a fact 3 of the county commissioners specifically are asking their mayors and their electeds for their position. So we're in a place now that this has become a true regional issue, and I think it's extraordinarily close. Waste Management is working beyond diligently. They're probably listening to this. There may be a bomb in my car. Who knows? That's my ultimate fear down the road, but neither here nor there. They are, and I will just say this, during the executive committee meeting, Mr. Laystrom stood up and started shouting that we were discussing it without an ability to be heard. Mayor Ryan respectively had him sit down, but Waste Management has become extraordinarily aggressive in this. And I would urge you all, if you haven't read it, the Florida Bulldog about 10 days ago posted an article. Now you wouldn't know it if you go to the Florida Bulldog. You wouldn't know it because it's called "Will Pam Bondi be questioned in confirmation hearings?" That's the title of the article. So it doesn't seem it when you look at the article, but you need to read it. It is probably one of the most comprehensive historical articles, factual historical articles, that provides a direct roadmap to this exact situation. Historically, what the Attorney General's office did at the time, a self-created, problem. And recently I ended up, pulling a video, looking at some of the video of when all of us spoke at the Planning Council meeting. And in my comments at the Planning Council meeting, I actually said to the Planning Council, I said, Jackie was there, on the Planning Council, I said, wait and see, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see them coming for a height expansion, and lo and behold, this is exactly what happened. I had a long conversation with Sheila and Terrell about this as well. There's a due process argument. Waste Management is taking a very big, like, we need our day. This is our time. There's a due process issue. They only applied for a height increase less than a year ago, or a little over a year ago. So if you really think about this, and that's what they want, their marquee item is a height expansion. So I really just urge you all, when we have friends and residents and other electeds, have them read that Bulldog article, because it provides an extraordinarily effective roadmap to, if you want to speak and you want to engage specifically about the environmental concerns, the lining issues. So it's a robust, good read, and obviously we'll be there. I think that it's great. I'm looking forward to the evening on Monday, followed by a fight on Tuesday. So we got a busy week next week. There's a couple other city events I could talk about. I don't want to belabor all the things that things I've gone to and done. I just really want to stress the importance of time is of the essence, and if we can get to any elected official, if they will write their county commissioner, we are now in a time that county commissioners are listening, because it's their electeds, and that is what is the biggest deal right now. And I would love to see some of these other cities just pen a letter and CC us, because that's what I think is going to candidly turn the tide here. So it's been an honor to argue these things in front of the Solid Waste Authority. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. Commissioner Bogan was able to confirm this evening when I was with staff what Sheila just said, that it's going to be a 1:15 time certain. And at the Solid Waste Authority, just to tell you all, it was unanimous but for Beam. So every member of the Solid Waste Executive Committee of Broward County voted to pen this letter. The only objection was from Mayor Furr, who also has submitted additional backup to his colleagues of why they should support it. So just so everyone's just aware of that. And the problem we have is a lot of his colleagues, just like us, we trust each other for the fiefdoms that we live in. We trust, John's on the league now, and Sandy's on the MPO, and I'm doing solid waste. We trust each other because we want to know. Jackie's on the planning council. These are things that we trust. And the problem when I'm having conversations with county commissioners is, well, that he's our expert. Well, he's the guy that does this. So how do you say no to the guy that's telling us to do this, and now, candidly, is advocating for it? So it's not even you're impartial anymore. He's actively advocating. But I'm hoping to get some of his cities to object, but I don't think we're going to change his mind. So I think I'm hopeful. And 2 county commissioners, I'm not going to out them today, but 2 county commissioners confirmed this evening that they're no votes. So there's 3 at least no votes now. Whether to defer or deny, I can't tell you, but the magic number is 5. So that's all I have this evening. And I would ask all of you, too, those elected officials that we have those relationships with, ask them, please send an email to your county. It doesn't need to be all the county commissioners. Send an email to your county commissioner, and make sure you CC us or the Solid Waste Authority.
So we know.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick things. Yeah, no, Monday's going to be Monday's a very special day here in the city. With our 2nd annual Holocaust Survivor Evening. But to get the cattle car here is a team effort from A to Z. And Bernadette, cheers to you for really running with it and getting it done. I really appreciate all the work. From the email I sent to Sheila to then to you, to get this done in a week has just been really special. And I hope our residents take advantage. It is something that has traveled around the country, big cities, small cities, and it really carries a huge message that we need to keep pushing in our society. Sheila, if it's possible, maybe at the next meeting, an update on, I know we were talking about maybe doing a traffic study in front of, just north of Tamarind, in that intersection going on 30th. Where we talked, right? There was like the box. We were maybe going to put a no block box.
Right. The request is in.
Oh, okay. Cool. And Mayor, congratulations on the great victory yesterday, I think, for Coconut Creek Elementary. And I know you've been, I was able to talk to some board members behind the scenes, but you going there and Bernadette going there does make a difference, and I appreciate that. All right? Yes, ma'am. As we cross over through March and into the reorganization of the dais, I would like to be considered for leadership on the dais when we get to that point. As a positive member of this dais and professional member, I think I'd be a great asset to leadership on this dais. That'll end my comments for tonight, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Commissioner Brody.
Car show on Saturday. It's going to be great weather, good sweatshirt weather. Not going to be sweating out there all over those nice cars. So I hope to see everybody out there. Starts at 10, ends at 2. So it's the prime time. It doesn't waste your day. You have still a lot to do afterwards. So enjoy the rest of your week.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Thank you. Yeah, this morning we had the Broward Planning meeting. And of course, waste management and Monarch Hill was discussed. And yeah, it was very interesting. And what came up and how it came up was due to the fact of our water quality. So, yeah, and PFAS and the contamination. So it was very interesting. And then actually, I won't say, but a commissioner did say that we needed 3 more votes on to support us. So it's not beyond our reach. So we just have to get busy, like you said. And Angelo did, yes. He did, in support of us, yes, yes. A number of the planning members did as well. So, yeah, so it was very encouraging. And I want you to know that, yes, we will have buses. Winmore is expecting to have buses, hopefully 2. And we're welcoming any resident of Coconut Creek that wants to join us. So all we need is names, and they're welcome to come on the bus with us and support our battle. And I want to say thank you. Something impressed me about our Monday event. I read in Europe that we are going to have emotional support there. And I think that that's a great forward-thinking
That's Bernadette.
solution. Thank you, Bernadette. That was great, because it will be emotional, no question. So thank you for that.
Emotional support dogs Monday for the cattle car.
Yeah, for the cattle car. They're going to have emotional dogs there.
Therapy
for
dogs.
Therapy dogs. Yes. So thank you for that. Also, Saturday morning is Big Brothers and Sisters breakfast at Weston. So other than that.
Are you going?
I am.
Okay.
Have a great weekend. Thank you all. See you Monday.
Well, I don't think enough can be said about Monday or Tuesday. And, you know, just getting the word out and getting people to actually show up and go. I just am curious, how many have registered to ride the bus to date? None?
3.
3.
3. So get the word out. And Yvonne is pushing it out. We were waiting. We sent another message to the ambassadors with the time certain. It was very difficult without having the time certain. So hopefully that'll pick up over the weekend.
So that'll be in the form of what?
So there was an email that went, a follow-up email that went to all the ambassadors. There were
Okay.
several of the groups that got direct emails, and then it'll also be pushed out on social media and on our Heads Up page.
Okay. All right. Well, this is totally unrelated, but it was a nice surprise. At the chamber event that was this past week about Catherine Givens being the new transitional Coral Springs city manager, and then also recognizing Cindy Brief. There, afterwards, I had
Excuse me.
occasion, bless you, to meet a couple of people that I didn't have time to interact with as they were leaving. And it was very interesting because in talking to them, they are event caterers and they're looking for an event center. So I gave them the location of one that is already approved in site plan for our city. And they went there, and before I could answer their email, they had evidently already gone to visit our sustainable director. So maybe, just maybe, I don't want to jinx it, but, you know, say your little prayers, because we do need an event center. And if there's something in the hopper that could actually take place, that would be a good thing. I think we should end on a good, happy, positive note. I beg your pardon? That's the only one that I know that is.
I think the property's been tied up in probate. I know a couple, I mean, you're aware of that?
Patricia Rathburn has been following that.
Okay, I've been tracking that as well, and the guy who owned it, the corporation died, and
I know.
so I think it's tied up in I would love it, but I think we have some issues with that.
Well, nothing happens quickly, right? But at least it's a prospect. Yes.
I just wanted to say one quick thing, and Kristen's watching at home. She's going to be mad at me about this, but Kristen brought the emotional support dogs to me, then brought to Sheila and Bernadette. So shout out to Kristen for your assistance.
Forward to it. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.